Kat Peterson, you're influence. You run ReelStyle, which is a sort of influencer marketing agency or talent management agency, I guess. Sorry, can you hear me now? It's better. So you just happen to be looking after the biggest gamers YouTuber in the world, in the form of PewDiePie. So how did that come about? Did you just rock up, or how does that happen?
It wasn't quite that random. ReelStyle started as a strictly e-commerce company, so we were creating products, merchandise, lipstick, you name it, for YouTubers and watching their conversion. So we worked with about 200 YouTubers in our first year, which was about 6 years ago. And one of the YouTubers that we were fortunate enough to work with was Cutie-Pie Marzia, who is Felix's now fiance. And she over-indexed and converted super well. So we kept doing work with her, and that relationship really blossomed into more of an agency management type relationship. And that's when the company sort of split into two different divisions, and we now have that side of the company as well as this sort of e-commerce area as well. So that's how we ended up working with PewDiePie. Lots of visits to Brighton.
Come and sit down, people. Come on. Don't stand at the back. Come on, there's plenty of seats. Only 20 minutes. Okay, all right. So who else have you got on your roster? So you've got PewDiePie and Marcia, Cutie-Pie.
And Marzia.
Do you have other YouTubers on there?
We have a couple things going on. So exclusively speaking, we have Marzia, Felix. We also work with a Spanish-speaking YouTuber and Twitch streamer named Luzu Games, who's one of the largest Spanish-speaking gamers in the US. He's pretty fabulous.
Okay.
And then we also work unexclusively, and again, this ties into the e-commerce side of our business nicely. We work with a lot of lifestyle influencers on exclusive e-commerce projects. So for example, we are launching a home collection for Lauren Elizabeth, who's based out of LA this spring, and that project is exclusive to us. So we'll look for sponsors around that, and different ways for brands to integrate into those projects. And that ranges across about a dozen to 15 projects a year that are exclusive to us. So we sort of become that e-commerce outlet for some interesting YouTubers. So
tell me about your average day. So you know, as a talent sort of manager, it must be eventful. How do you interact with Felix and Marcia and the others? Well, how does that look?
Sure. On a day-to-day, I spend most of my time working with them over any form of chat. So whether that's Discord or WhatsApp or however they want to communicate at that moment. It depends on what platform they're sitting in front of. So if they're on their phone versus on the computer, I spend a lot of time chatting
constantly
with
in communication.
them. Constantly.
Okay. Fair enough. And what is that doing? What are you discussing kind of briefs? Are you kind of telling them not to do things? I mean, what is that like?
Right. It's the same reason I don't like the term manager, because the talent that I work with isn't looking to be managed. They're looking for someone to help them grow and develop their business. So I'm not there to tell them what to say, what not to say. I will happily advise them if I feel that they've crossed a line.
Fair enough.
Because
I can't imagine that could ever happen
it's weird. Yeah, no. But what I try and do is let them know what sort of content, behavior, that sort of stuff will help grow their business, and what could possibly hinder it as well. Okay.
So describe a typical process. Do briefs kind of come through you? Are you going out liaising with kind of clients on their behalf, or how does that work? Does someone brief in and go, we want PewDiePie to cover this game. Here's what we want. Does it come to you? Does it go to him? How does that kind of work?
Sure. Most of it comes into us directly, but I would say about 30% of that converts into an actual paid campaign. 70% we're going out and hustling ourselves. So, and I think a big part of what that liaising over chat is all day is sitting with Marzia and Luzu and Felix and saying, okay, we have this project coming up, or there's this gap in your schedule. What kind of brands can we go after? Who are you guys loving right now? Because we see the best ROI and that best engagement when they're really loving the brands. So we go and chase after them most times.
That's really interesting. So I'd imagine that that yours or Felix's inbox is about as busy as mine, and I can imagine he's probably getting quite a lot of requests, incoming inbound requests to play my game, cover my game, etc., etc. Do you have to filter through that? It's interesting you're saying you're going out looking for business. I think you'd be overwhelmed by inbound, really.
Sure. I used to be overwhelmed by inbound. So when we started working together, a lot of people didn't believe that we worked with him or Marzia or Luzu because we're a team that is predominantly female based out of Toronto. That's a very strange combination in the industry.
Female Canadians, is that
exactly?
Okay, fair enough.
So a lot of people didn't believe that we were working with him. So he said, well, I can put your email address up on the About page on my channel. And I was like, oh yeah, that'll solve that.
Yeah.
No, that created a host of other problems.
Fair enough.
So I spent a lot of time digging through spam. There are a lot of people that are interested in him sending money and, all that nonsense. So I spent a lot of time digging through spam. So I get a lot of inbound leads.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're looking at about 30% of the business converts that way.
Okay.
So it's low.
And so typically, like you've got, good developers and publishers at this conference who are looking to work with influencers. Obviously, PP is a very, very popular influencer, probably very expensive influencer. What advice would you offer to developers who are looking to work with either PewDiePie or other influencers? What's kind of the best practice for approaching you in that only 30% kind of converts? Is that because you're filtering it out, or is that because you just can't come to terms?
I answer almost every email that comes in.
Okay.
So long as...
You still haven't done that promo video I keep asking for. I don't know why it is.
So I think the best approach whenever you're sort of, the inbound, when you're sending out emails to people that are managing influencers or working on their business development, is really to be super clear in the ask up front. And I think, this sounds like very obvious advice, but saying that you're looking to engage with them on a paid campaign, you're going to move to the top of the list in terms of, because while I'm sure Felix would love to play every game that's produced and tested on his channel, there's no possible way for us to filter through all of that. Same thing with most of the women we work with on the beauty and lifestyle side. Marzia gets an insane amount of emails. Can she wear my clothing for free? Can I send her a package of lipsticks? It would be so difficult to manage your business that way. So the people that see the most success and that connection really quickly are the ones that are able to say and be super clear up front, this is the game we're looking to work with you on, and this is a paid promotion.
Okay. Again, Marcy's never worn the clothes I sent her, which is unfortunate at that point. That sounds bad, actually. I shouldn't have gone away. But talking of paid promotion, so we saw lots of figures up there before from Zork, which is quite interesting. It was quite interesting international stereotypes. I always enjoy this. But
it's fun when you work with a Swedish guy who lives in the UK who also loves Russia. It's like a whole mix of. It's
awesome. But what is a ballpark for PewDiePie? What's the get out of bed sort of range? I'm not expecting to say exactly how much, but is it, are we talking, is it got to be hundreds of thousands, or is it tens of thousands? Where's that kind of range for working to be taken seriously, I guess?
Sure. I would say generally speaking, just from, and again, obviously it depends on the ask and the product. I think you're looking at the tens of thousands to be sort of considered in the space. But knowing that right now we're able to monetize his influence and all of our influencers across Instagram stories, Twitter, YouTube. So, the prices obviously range. And then I think the other thing to really consider with all of the influencers we work with is their willingness and wanting to work with the brand. Because I've had a lot of influencers that we've worked with over the last 6 years come to me and say, I want to work with this brand. I want them associated with the sponsors that I have on my channel. I don't care how much I get paid. So they'll say, just go out and find it for me. So, lots of brands are pleasantly surprised when we knock on their door and say,
And what does a deal look like? So I've sent you mail. I've gone like, okay, I've got X £1,000. I want him to play this game as a playthrough or whatever. What does the kind of deal look like then? Is it kind of money up front? Is it kind of based on views? Typically where, I'm sure there's variance, but typically what sort of deals are you kind of seeing or going for?
Sure. We don't do a lot of pay per download type games, because again, we'd end up in this rut where, because everybody has a cost per download that they can throw at us. So I think there's always a floor to get into that sort of discussion with someone like Felix or Luzu or even Marzi. A lot of the fashion brands are now coming to us and doing the same sort of thing.
Pay-per install lipstick, how does that work? Fair enough.
No, the affiliate deals are pretty insane, right? So.
Yeah. Okay, but typically then you've got like a upfront fee, and that's kind of commits it, and then there's some sort of, depending on performance, there's some sort of back end, I guess.
Usually, yeah.
Okay.
But it depends on what the brands are after too. And a lot of the mobile gaming companies we work with as well don't want to do a cost per download, because that fear alone gets, what happens if he gets, 250,000 downloads?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Or 10 million downloads, whatever.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, exactly. They want to cap their kind of spam. I guess that's the kind of thing for the people that are used to kind of mobile UA. It's very quantifiable, controllable. It's like, I'm going to spend this much in this market, see, I get this back. They're constantly looking at data, and in many ways, influencer marketing is much more kind of old school marketing, like the marketing that media like I'm used to as well. It's you put it out there, you think it's the right location, and there's a little bit of a kind of grey area about whether it's going to kind of hit.
Sure.
Do you think it's going to stay that way, or do you think it's going to be forced to move? I mean, at the moment there's a massive demand, but then the number of influencers is growing every day. My son wants to be an influencer. He's 7. There's a whole kind of plateau of kids crawling up with mics and cameras now. So do you think it'll stay this way, or are we in the golden age of influencers right now? Or
I definitely think it's going to shift. I've seen it shift over the last 2 years or so. With the demonetization of YouTube, more brands are coming to the creator directly to work with them. I think that's really important, and I think the way people are looking at things is changing as well. Some of the bigger brands are able to come to us now and look at the spends. I sort of liken it to radio, where they're able to target it a little bit, but it's not perfectly targeted. They're reaching a pretty precise audience, and they're measuring a lot of what they're doing just by reach, not necessarily by clicks or downloads. So it's a little bit different that way. Whereas, when you hear a lot of radio spending and radio ads, you're hearing the, use promo code X, and that's how they're measuring their success. And I'm seeing a lot of that. So I think things have changed a lot for sure.
Okay. One of the interesting things that came up with Zorki's presentation, they were looking at, they're talking about timelines, talking about how having to book in things like a month in advance or more. Is that typical with your influencers? I mean, what sort of lead times are we looking at?
Sure. I think just to get most of these contracts into a legal cycle, depending on how that's working, I think giving it sort of that 2 to 3 week timeline works. I mean, unless you want to come in and do one Instagram story with someone, we can probably find an easier way to get around the legal stuff that way. But generally, it's about a month in advance that things are booking out. And
then what happens if, another thing was interesting, I enjoyed that presentation. Another thing's interesting is their dog died, or I know he likes his dog, probably very upset if the dog died. But if something's happened, or he's just overslept, or he's done something random in another country, how do you kind of manage that? Is that your problem? Is that where you come in, or that you have to kind of make up and sort it out? Because that's the central difficulty here, it's a human factor, isn't it? Unlike you're buying ads on an app or something, they're just there, it's all programmatic, blah blah. But here, it depends on somebody getting up, doing it, also being engaged. How do you make sure that happens, and how do you legislate for that?
Sure.
Long questions.
No. There's a very human element about what goes on, and I think a lot of advertisers sometimes forget that. They'll say, we really want, this video that we've approved to go up at noon Eastern Standard Time. And I'll say, okay, we'll work on that window, but things happen.
Yeah.
Upload speeds happen. People forget to hit upload and go to a movie. Things happen. Life happens.
That sounds like that's happened.
No.
No. Okay, fine.
But I think things happen all the time, and that there is a very human element of this type of advertising. And luckily, most of the advertisers we work with are relatively flexible in their windows. So I try not to pin a day and a time on what kind of activities are going to happen, because I find that can either lead to letdown on our end, the creator's end. I mean, you never know. Or, they'll do exactly what they said they did in the time frame. The publisher will come back and say, oh, sorry, there's something wrong. Can you hold off? Yeah. So I try and create windows for people.
You talked earlier about being clear in your email and saying this is a paid campaign, this is the game. Is there any other advice you can offer for developers, either in terms of their approach or their expectations, or what makes it easier for you to work with people? How can they make life easy for you and make their campaign most successful, I guess?
Sure. I think really understanding the content of the influencer that you're going after is such a critical part of this industry. So when I have people and advertisers come to me and they'll say, we really want to do this, and we'll get to sort of the last stages of negotiations, and then they'll say, okay, but there can't be any swearing in a campaign for 2 weeks. And you think, oh dear.
For 2 weeks?
Sure.
Has he gone 2 weeks without swearing? Has he gone like 24 hours?
Have you?
I very rarely swear. I'm a very clean living boy.
So, I think really having a true understanding of the type of content that you're sort of getting in bed with is super important, because it will help dictate so many elements of the campaign. And, I think it's just a big part of it. Watch the influencers, watch the channels, get a sense of, I'll have people reach out to me and they'll say, we'd really love to see him play this style of mobile game. And I'll say, well, okay, I'll run it by him, but I've never seen him play a mobile game like that before. And that's not to say he wouldn't try it, he wouldn't test it, he wouldn't get paid to do it. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it'll be the highest performing.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. Have we got any questions? I've got plenty more, but is there any other questions for Kat? This is the person that deals with the most powerful YouTuber in the world here. It's the end of day kind of question. Okay, you obviously, like you say, you came from, I'll keep an eye out for hands, but you came from the fashion side of things. Is there a question over there? Okay, there's a question, sorry.
So you mentioned that a lot of influencers will come to you and say, like, I don't care how much they would pay, I'm really interested in working with that brand. Yeah. The opposite actually happened to you before? Like, brands reach out to you and say, like, I don't know who I want to do that, I don't know if you have that influencer connection, but can you look out for something that's a fit for my company and someone that is willing to work with me?
Yes. So we often have brands come out and reach out and they'll say, here's our budget, here's exactly what we're looking for, and I'll sort of start plugging it in. And I'm pretty honest with people. I'll say, like, you're talking to the wrong person. The people I work with don't reach that demographic. They don't. And they'll say, well, could you put me in touch with so-and-so? Or do you have a connection to so-and-so? So that's where I think our network has sort of opened up a little bit. And, I've become fast friends with lots of people that are working with streamers or other YouTubers, and I'll connect them with those people and try and sync them up that way. Thanks.
Oh, another question.
I was a little unclear. You guys talked about a payment in advance, but then when it got to kind of payment in success, I couldn't tell if you're saying, yes, you do downloads or you don't. Can you talk about the sort of back end that somebody might get?
Sure. Generally speaking, it's a flat fee, but like I said, and this sort of, piggybacks on other things I talked about, I'll often put a brand, a game, or something in front of one of the influencers I work with, and they'll want to do it so badly that they'll say, yeah, okay, let's try that, or let's test this out. So nothing is out of the question.
Okay, I've got two more. I'm in charge. I can have more questions. Go on. This is perks of the job. Go on.
In the context of blockchain gamer connects.
The blockchain's come up. It's next door. It's going there.
Right. So can you reach audience for a blockchain-based game? Can you reach audience that will bring in Ether to a new crypto game?
Have you done any blockchain campaigns yet? You will. Don't worry. It's coming.
It sounds like we will. Like, I mean, we're sort of seeing that, we're seeing more of that come in, and we're really figuring out how to navigate the space. What does that look like? What does it look like in terms of payment? Because remember, exactly, I think that's just it, is that anybody who's working in that space also wants to pay out in that space. And it's, It's
You can sell
complicated.
ether for dollars, you know.
It's complicated.
It's complicated. Okay. So there's no even answer. Final question I've kind of got is, I said you came from the space, or you've got obviously YouTubers in different spaces, very different to gaming. Are there any trends or tips or techniques that you're seeing in the kind of fashion or elsewhere that you think the gaming people haven't yet cottoned on to or could be using? Because I don't watch a lot of fashion. My son watches a lot of unboxing kind of stuff, and there's some interesting kind of things there that I think maybe gaming is game related, but I don't know.
Sure. I think one of the biggest successes I'm seeing on the lifestyle and fashion side is that big brands are doing something that's really awesome, and they're taking influencers out on these amazing trips. So taking 10 women to Fiji to play with their products for a week. Well,
Sounds great.
Right. Can
I get on that trip? That'd be fantastic.
But they're getting a ton of free content out of that. And by free, I mean the trip is obviously not free. But to have all of those people engaging with their products, they get a week with influencers to get them in their clothing, test their sunscreens, and everything else. I mean, the amount of content that comes out of that is amazing.
So not purely cash up front, but kind of bribes and trips. Trips is
well,
okay.
But I think the gaming community could stand to learn something from that.
I think Supercell actually does that kind of stuff. They fly loads of people out to Helsinki rather than necessarily paying them up front and kind of take them out and do big competitions and stuff. So I think there's a little bit of that, but yeah, that sounds like
a little bit, but why not put on a full battle royale with paintball in the middle of the desert?
It sounds good. See, there's an opportunity there.
But
you hear it here, PewDiePie, battle royale in the middle of the desert. PewDiePie's in, definitely. That's the cast iron guarantee. He'll do it. Free coverage. So it's only short. We could talk for ages, and we probably will later on. But can I have a big round of applause, please, for Kat Peterson?
Thank you.